Fees. In fees, there are four features which we would look at. The first one is called the fee collectables. Fee collectables are the items that are comprised to make up a fee that a student make payment for. For instance, you can call tuition, wares, uniform. Those are items in a fee, and those items are called collectables. In NETSAP, you have to create those items. Those items are divided into four. One of them is called the categories. The categories is a way of grouping items. You can group few items, for instance, boarding fees, day student fees. You can create those different groups to group these items, so you can collect the money differently. You also have the item itself, which are the payable items. That is the items which you can start entering or creating and writing the amount for each of them. As you can see, these were pre-written in this tutorial. You have tuition, you have transport, you have pair of uniform. You have so many of them here, and you can search them from here also. You also have a particular type of item called conditions. Conditions are items that you add to a fee when a particular constraint or a particular criteria is met. For instance, you want to add extra charge if a student pay fee late, or if a student doesn't pay fee within a particular period of time. You want to add an extra surcharge or late fee payment item so that the student can pay for that extra charge. So that is an example of a conditional item. You also have what they call installments. You can decide that, okay, for this fee to be paid, it should be paid once, it should be paid twice, it should be paid unlimited. So these different four categories of information, you might need to create them to start collecting fees. But the most important ones are the fee category, the fee item. The fee conditions are optional. The installation are also optional. Let's take a dive to see how an invoice looks like after you're done with setting up this item and creating the invoice templates and generating invoices. This is a sample invoice that was created on this platform, and this is for a particular student. As you can see here below, these are the fee items here based on what we created and what we set up to generate for that class. You can see these are the items: tuition, transport, pair of uniform, math lesson, ICT, boarding, wares, boarding fee. These are all the money. This is the subtotal, the total, the amount due, and this is an unpaid invoice. You can look at a different one. This is another type of invoice with different items, but this time here, this invoice, there were two payments being made here. You can see this is the first payment here, and this is the second payment, and the amount due is even more. That means in this case now, the school is probably owing the student because the student paid more than the amount that was owed. We also have a receipt, how it looks like. Now, these are templates that were used to create all of these invoices and receipts. And these templates can be created as many you want, or you can pick from the library of templates to represent how your receipt or invoices should look like. As you can see here, we have this typical receipt of payment that was made. This is also a different one with a different set of designs. So for us to be able to create invoices for students and also allow payments, we have to first establish or create fee collectables. I'm going to switch from nursery school to primary school so we can look at how it works. So let's start with category here. In category, you simply come here, click on new collectible. It allows you to provide few information that are required. For instance, you have to provide the name of the category. You can just simply call it, for instance, okay, school fee. That is a category. That means in this category, we want to list the items that we consider as school fees. You can describe it. And if all the items are compulsory, please tick yes, they are compulsory. Otherwise, just simply say no. Add enter. So that is an item added here. You can see here, this is a category item called school fees, no description. Right now is in reserve mode. That means it has not been used, and any item in reserve mode can be deleted by using this delete button here. So if I can see, there are no items added within this category, and to edit the category is simply for you to click on the edit icon there, make some changes, and click save. Let's add one more. We're going to add one here called lesson fee or transport. And transport can be compulsory or not, so let's still pick no and click yes. So we have two categories here. Now, take note, we've not assigned this to classes or invoices here. We're just creating items that are possible in our school. In this case here, this is a tutorial school. Right, so we have two categories. As you can see here at the top here, also give you a simple count of these different types of items. As you can see, we have two categories that were created for this school level. Let's move to items. Let's create items. Now these are items. This information here is an item. You can see this is an item name, description. If the item has some quantities, you can state it and the amount. So let's go create item now. So I'm going to click new collectible here. Now an item is attached to a category and it must be attached to a category. So we're going to go ahead to add the item, say to school fees. We can call this item, say tuition. You can describe it further. If the item has some quantities, you can put it there. Then you put the total amount for the item. For instance, tuition can be 200,000 for the school. Take note, this school here works with Naira. Below here will give you the credit equivalent of this money. If you're dealing with a different currency, you see credit equivalent. The use of this credit equivalent is a NetSAP online unit, because any payment that can be done on NetSAP via NetSAP or to NetSAP must be in credit, not in your currency. But so far you can enter every monetary value in your currency. If this item is compulsory or not, if it's compulsory, simply pick yes, otherwise pick no. So we'll just pick yes there and click save. So we've added one item. You can see this is the item name, this is the category for which it belongs. It's in reserve mode, meaning that okay, it's not being used. You can delete it, and this is the item amount. You can delete and also make changes. Let's add one more item here. We're going to go ahead and add one here, and let's call this one uniform. And let's assume uniform is about 3. Just put 3 there. Here you have to place the total amount. You don't have to put the unit amount. The quantity is just to give us information on the invoice or receipt that okay, this is the number of uniform you'll be given when you pay a total amount. Let's assume a uniform costs 2,000. For 3 uniforms, we're going to make it 6,000. And if that is it and it's compulsory, we're simply going to save there. So we have 2 items so far. As you can see, these items are added to school fee. Let's add one more, but this time we're going to pick a different category. Let's say transport. Let's say transport from A location to B location. So we're going to say that transport can be like 25,000 naira per term. It's not compulsory. We now have 3 items. As you can see here, we have uniform, tuition, transport from A location to B location. If I pick school fees, you can see these are the 2 items attached to school fees. And if I pick transport, this is the only item attached to transport. With this in mind, we are done for the items. Let's also practice adding a conditional item. In this case, we're going to create one for late payment. To create a conditional item, that means item that should be added when a particular criteria is met. Those criteria must be added here. So we're going to show you how to do that. Now there are 2 types of conditional items. There is one that is positive, there is one that is negative. A positive conditional item brings money to the school. A negative conditional item takes money from the school. For instance, when you have a late payment item added to a student invoice, that means money will be coming into the school. So you have to create what you call a positive conditional item. But let's assume you have a condition item that is called scholarship. Assuming your school is giving a scholarship of 100,000 naira to every student, or to the first 10 students that paid money in the school, and then you may be having what they call a negative conditional item. That means that kind of item will be taking money from the school. Yes, you are giving bonuses to the school, to the students. It's a good thing. Your face is smiling, but in your heart you are grinching because you are losing money. All right, so that is a negative conditional item. So, but in this case, then let's create one called a positive. Let's give it a very good name. We call it late payment in this case here. And give it your own type of name. You can describe it further. You can place your charge in this case here. So let's say when a student makes payment of school fees, say, for instance, this term starts from, let's assume, January to April. So our condition would be that, okay, the student, if he doesn't make payment after the end of February, we'll consider it as late payment, all right? So we're going to come here and put the charge there. Let's assume is 15,000. Now, after that, the next thing you provide is the conditions that will trigger this item called late payment to be added as an item to the student fee or to the student invoice. The first most important condition is when should it be applied for that term? When should it start? When should it start kicking in? When should the system start checking students that meet this criteria? So you have to provide the date. So just like we said, if first term started, say, January, and it's going to end April, we're going to come here and say, okay, from 2024, March 10th. So we're looking at from March 10th. That's when it should start. That means when we add this item, to an invoice template, the only time the item will be added to the invoice would be if we have students that are owing, that's still owing till March 10th. It's also, you can come up with when it should end. For instance, you want to apply this condition within March 10th to March 15th. But this is not compulsory. You can just leave it blank. Leaving it blank here means that you're applying it from March 10th till the end of term. Then another information here is that you have to pick the debt level. For instance, a student might be owing entire money. For instance, you can see you have 100%, and below means it's owing any type of debt at all, whether it's full debt or partial debt. You can be owing 10% and below. That means probably he has been making payment, but there's still some 10% debt left. Can be owing 50%. That means he has probably paid like 50% of the fees, but he's still owing 50%. So you have 50% and below here. You can simply go for one called any debt. That means if he's owing, even if it's 10 naira or 10 bucks or a big money, okay, this should also apply. You can also pick what they call no debt. No debt will be good when you are considering, for instance, probably scholarship or something else. Right, so let's just pick any debt at all. So if we have that, we can add our items. So as you can see, this is the late payment item added here. Then let's look at installation finally. Installations are simply you limiting the number of time fees can be paid for an invoice. We're going to simply add new collectible here. Let's assume the invoice will be paid twice. We can say twice pay or twice installment. We're going to pick what we call the invoice type. We have what they call the fixed type and the percentage type. For instance, if the total amount of school fees is 100,000, you can simply, and you are sure upfront, and that means nobody would pay much more than that or less. So we can pick a fixed type of installment. And how many installments do you want to make? Our statement here says twice. So we're going to create two. So the first one, the second one. In the first one, we probably say, okay, you must pay at least 50,000 naira out of the 100,000 naira at least. Then you probably will pay the remaining one later on. So this is how to create a fixed type of installment. So we're going to click save here. Let's create another one again, but this time here, let's just say thrice installment. This time we want to consider payment, say, for percentage, because sometimes you may not know actually what the student might be paying, but all we know is that we want it to be 3 times. So in thrice kind of payment, you want to give a percentage. So you're going to say at least the first one should be at least 50%. Okay, you don't necessarily have to put in the percent, just put 50 there. And then the second one, at least you should be able to pay up to 30%. And the last one, you should be able to pay up to 20%. Sometimes you don't even need to put this last one. Once you put the 50-30, that means at least the first one is 50, the second one is 30, the last one should be all of them. All right, but you can also do this. So this still works. As you can see, we have two installments here. The first one was a fixed type of installment. It's in reserve mode, meaning that you can delete it or you can edit. You can see it's two splits. In the second one, there we have the percentage type. It's in reserve mode. It's just three splits. You can delete, you can also edit. So that is how to create or add collectibles that will be used to make payment for invoices and also to gain receipts for the invoice.